Hi, I'm Kalilah Reynolds, and welcome to another live edition of Taking Stock. We're bringing you all the latest business news and telling you how it will affect you and your money. Now, don't forget to head over to my website, KalilahReynolds.com, once this live has ended to get my newsletter straight to your inbox twice a week. Also, remember to hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. Where is everybody joining us from tonight? Which part of the country, which part of the world? Let us know in the comments. Now, here's a look at what's coming up in tonight's show, followed by what's hot in business. Now, come on, let's get this money. Microfinancing Solutions has finally completed its acquisition of SSL Venture Capital, now owning a 79% stake. But what are they gonna do with it? We'll find out from Director of MFS Group and SSLVC, Dino Hinds. And the Analysts weigh in on the latest market developments. JFP has gotten its first U.S. client, Hyatt Place Newark Hotel in California. Ciboney's major shareholder is in the final stages of selling 72% of the company. And Sygnus Credit Investments and Lasco Financial Services results are out. How did they perform? We'll discuss. But first, here's What's Hot, brought to you by Jamaica Money Market Brokers, your best interest at heart.
Allotments for the dollar IPO were announced today. Applicants in the general public pool will receive a base allotment of 10,000 shares and only 2.5% of the remainder. This means an investor who applied for 100,000 shares will only receive 12,250 shares. Key partners will receive full allotment. Dollar made junior market history last month, earning more than $5 billion in subscriptions, 10 times its asking amount of $500 million. Speaking on Taking Stock recently, Dollar CEO Kadeen Mayer said he believes the stock is one that investors should hold on to for long-term gains and not just a quick flip. The company noted that refunds for applicants who did not receive full allotment will begin tomorrow, June 8. Refunds will be made to the broker account provided by applicants. Last month's two-day strike by National Water Commission workers cost the company an estimated $240 million in revenue. Director General of the Planning Institute of Jamaica, Dr. Wayne Henry, said that during the strike, water consumption fell by over 450 megaliters, which was equivalent to 2% of the consumption for April to June. Production also fell by almost 1,300 megaliters. NWC workers walked off the job on May 10 and 11, protesting what they said was an unfair compensation package. The act spurred similar protests by National Housing Trust workers and air traffic controllers. The strike by air traffic controllers effectively shut down Jamaica's airspace and is expected to have cost the country millions of dollars. The PIOJ, which has been tasked with assessing the damage from the industrial action, said it's still waiting on estimates from the air transport services. There might be some good news coming from Ciboney Group soon. In a notice on the Jamaica Stock Exchange website, directors of the company indicated that a major shareholder is now finalizing a decision for the sale of its 72% shareholding. The interested buyer and value of the deal have not yet been disclosed. Ciboney is currently a shell company having no assets. The company previously held properties in the tourism sector and was formerly the major investor in Sandals, Ojo-Rios and Ciboney hotels. America's formula shortage is one step closer to being over. Manufacturing company Abbott Nutrition says it has restarted production at its Michigan factory. Abbott closed the factory in February after the Food and Drug Administration began investigating 4 bacterial infections among infants who consumed powdered formula from the plant. 2 of the babies died. The shutdown of the plant, which is America's largest formula factory, led to the supply problems. Abbott said it initially will prioritize production of its specialty formulas for infants with severe food allergies and digestive problems who have few other options for nutrition. The company said it will take about 3 weeks before new formula from the plant begins showing up on store shelves. Basketball legend LeBron James has officially become a billionaire according to Forbes. James is the first active NBA player to reach the milestone and only the 3rd NBA player to ever reach billionaire status after Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. James, who currently plays for the Los Angeles Lakers, is the NBA's highest paid player, earning a reported $121 million last year on and off court. He was also featured on Forbes' 10 highest paid athletes of 2022 list, ranking number 2 after footballer Lionel Messi. Overall, James has reportedly made $387 million from the Cleveland Cavaliers, Miami Heat, and Los Angeles Lakers. He also reportedly brought in another $900 million from other ventures and endorsements, such as a lifetime Nike sponsorship, Blaze Pizza franchises, and owning a video production company. What's Hot was brought to you by Jamaica Money Market Brokers, your best interest at heart.
This segment of Taking Stock is brought to you by Bulwark Insurance Agency, insurance made easy, and
Download today. Register using your existing NCB online banking login credentials. To open an account or get more info, contact our Wealth Hub today.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Well, we got a lot to talk about today, but first, let me shout out our viewers. Where are you joining us from? Kish Lindsay says, London in the house. Hello, London. Mandeville checking in. That's LeVar Henry, always in tune. Andre says, Shellings from Sydney, Australia. Crikey, man, down under. How are things down under there in Sydney? He says, represent and let's get this money. I like it, Sydney. 876 Global TV is representing for Malines Road in Kingston. Big up yourself. 876 Global TV. Chica Brown is in New Jersey, checking in. A lot of people up north tuned in this evening. Denver is in the Bahamas. Lovely. What part of the Bahamas are you in, Denver? You're in the capital, not Nassau. You're in one of the islands, the Abacos. Let me know, where are you? Debbie is checking in from New York, checking in. Jack Badu is in Ontario, Canada. Is it Ontario or Ontario, Canada? Anyway, you're in Canada, up in them cold places. Hopefully it starts to warm up now. Anthony says Portmore in the building. And of course, we have our regular Kingston Massive joining us. And like I said, a lot to talk about because the MFS acquisition, or I should say MFS acquisition, Microfinancing Solutions acquisition, has finally completed its acquisition of SSL Venture Capital, SSLVC. So MFS now holds a 79% stake in SSLVC. So what now? What are they going to do with the company? Well, I'm joined by Director of MFS Group and SSLVC, Dino Hinds. Welcome to Taking Stock, Dino.
Good night, and thank you very much for having me.
I am happy to have you on. So just give us some background first about what MFS does. I think that the name kind of gives us an indication what you do, but tell us about MFS, Microfinancing Solutions.
Okay, so we actually started out as a loan company, a payday loan company, and over time we actually started offering a full suite of money services, products and services. So we do foreign exchange trading, remittances, bill payment, along with our payday loan and a little bit of equity financing. And over time, we have actually become a full group of companies. We are in real estate investing and a couple other areas.
So where are you primarily located? Kingston?
So we're primarily in Kingston. We have two money shops. One is in New Kingston at the Small Business Association complex, and the other is in 3 Miles. We also have...
Go ahead.
Now we also have other locations that deals with like our operations, accounting, and so on. That doesn't see customers.
All right, so tell us now about the establishment of MFS acquisition and the purpose of that company.
All right, so we actually looked at the structure we wanted to do, and in terms of doing the acquisition of SSLVC, we felt it best to actually create this special purpose vehicle that the primary function was just to acquire the 79% shares of SSL Limited. So that's the only purpose that that actual vehicle was created for.
And remind us how much you ended up paying for SSLVC?
Roughly $30 million.
30 million. Okay, so
Yes.
now the money question. I know this has been in the works for a while. I've been seeing it in the news. What do you intend to do with SSLVC?
So when we looked at the company, and our primary objective is to utilize the company as a SPAC, a special purpose acquisition company, and we intend to actually do one of the we will be doing several moves over a period of time. One of the very first move that we'll be doing is to use the company to acquire our flagship company, Microfinancing Solutions.
Okay. So that was going to be my next question. How are you going to work it? Are you going to incorporate the existing microfinancing solutions into SSLVC? And then, so what would be the next step? Will you stay under the SSLVC brand, or are you going to change their name to yours?
So we actually, we have already actually put in a request to change the name of the company to our brand. The name that we have actually requested is MFS Capital Partners. So after that is approved, then the name and the ticker will change to our brand.
So tell me, why go that route? Because I'm assuming that the purpose was so that you can become listed on the stock exchange, or you can correct me if there was a different purpose, but why go that route as opposed to doing your own IPO?
Well, over time, I mean, and just to be clear, this doesn't, based on the structure we're looking at, this doesn't prevent us from actually listing MFS or any of the other companies that we own in the future. Because the structure we're looking at is that SSL VC, which will now become MFS, will actually be a private equity company that owns several subsidiaries, right? So we looked at this as a quicker route to actually get our brand on the stock exchange. And the company overall, we think the concept of private equity is one that we have been pursuing over time as part of our overall MFS group of companies. We have actually, over the past 8 years, invested in several small and medium-sized companies. We have I think that over that period, we have actually perfected, well, I guess nothing is perfect, but we have actually dabbled significantly in the private equity model in terms of buying companies, building and divesting and taking gains that way. And we looked at the SSL model, a company that's already listed, and think that this is a great way for us to actually get in that space, but also a way to actually create value for minority shareholders of the company and other stakeholders of the company.
So you are going to be taking over their business model in terms of private equity venture capital investment?
Well, they were mainly in terms of, they were mainly a venture capital company, but we are going to be more.
Which is a type of private equity.
Right, but we are looking at companies that are more, that are at a different level in terms of their life cycle. So we are not interested in the, I mean, the startup part of life. We're not really, that's not really our core objective right now. We're looking for fast growing dynamic companies that have strong cash flow that can become a part of our group. As I said, we have companies currently in terms of the money services, in terms of real estate. And if we see other companies that we can add to grow those companies via acquisition, we'll gladly grab them.
So you're not really interested in the early stage companies. Give me a more concrete idea of what type of companies you're looking for. Do they need to be well-established companies, for example?
No, I mean, no. So we're looking for companies that maybe are currently have revenues of over $100 million, companies that have shown strong growth over maybe a 3 to 5 year period. So, I mean, of course, with everything, companies that are also scalable. So there are a number of criteria that we'll be looking for in terms of the companies that we get into. But we just know that for us right now, this in terms of the stage of life of where the companies are, is very important to us when we're looking to get in.
Are you concerned at all that the company that you've just taken over, there's some bad energy there? Because first it was C2W Music, and then that failed, and it became SSLVC, and then that failed, and then now MFS comes to take it over. Are you concerned about any bad vibes with that particular company? Like, is that bad luck?
No, I don't believe in that aspect. I don't believe in that. So what our team brings to the table is, I think, combined we have over 100 years experience in terms of our investment banking, commercial banking, real estate development, compliance, accounting. So I think we have a strong team. I think we also have, over the past 8 years, we have actually built a strong company. I think that our brand, has shown itself, and I think that even the SSL Limited, as I said, it's a vehicle. It will be rebranded. There's a new team. There's a new set of persons who will be driving this company. Persons who have shown their credentials while working in the private sector and have now proven themselves in terms of being entrepreneurs over an 8 to 10 year period. So I think persons can be confident in the team that is there now, that will be leading the company and moving it forward.
Let's take our first question from the audience. This one comes from Jason Skywalker, who says, you mentioned real estate investing. Does MFS invest as developers, rental properties, or REITs?
So we are more in the development space. Currently, what the stage that we're at is that we have acquired properties that we think are in good locations, high value properties. And the model that we'll be pursuing is to do joint ventures in terms of developing these properties. So that's the space that we're in.
All right. So now that you have this new company and you've kind of explained how you're going to model the entire structure, tell me about, because you already have microfinancing solutions, and you mentioned some of the other things that you do, but how much will the private equity fit into your overall strategy for the overall group? Like, what percentage of the company do you see being private equity versus the microfinancing and the Forex and the other things that you do?
So just to give you a little background, money services, as I said earlier, we started out as a money services company, but our objective has always been to become a full service financial institution. So we believe that at our core, that will always be our flagship brand and our flagship business. But we look at private equity as an area that will play a significant role. Maybe 30% of the overall business that we're doing will be private equity in the future going forward. This market conditions might dictate that changes, but we see it as a significant part of what we'll be doing going forward.
30%, yes, that is a pretty significant part indeed. So tell me more now about SSL and what this process has taken you how long?
So it took a little longer than expected. We had a few hiccups, but so we started, the first announcement, I think, was in January. So it took what, 5 months? A little longer than expected, but we are happy that in terms of where we are now, and we are excited about the next stage of the journey. The hiccups along the way, of course, were learning experience in terms of doing these type of acquisitions and there are processes involved in terms of, getting all your ducks in a row with the regulators. So we're happy with that. And I mean, because we'll be doing a lot more acquisitions, we hope in the future. This first one would have given us the insight as to how in the future to ensure that we're much quicker in terms of getting these done.
So it took about 6 months, and like you said, longer than expected. Well, for me, these things just take time, I tell you, especially when it has to do with listing, and yeah, it always takes a lot longer than people think it is going to take. We have some
Yes.
more questions from the audience. So this one is a two-part question from Shaq Attack, who wants to know, they have a specific question. Is Capital Solutions Limited a target acquisition for the company? Shaq have some inside knowledge there.
In our offering circular, it was declared at the time that MFS Limited actually has a 28% stake in Capital Solutions. That's a stake that we're happy with. As a team, we will sit down and make a decision in terms of that stake. What do we do with it? And when we make that decisions, we'll have announcements.
What is Capital Solutions? What does that company do?
It's a licensed securities dealer. Company that is licensed by the FSC to offer investment products and services, stocks, bonds, portfolio type products, a full suite of products and services.
Yes, so I did see some report about that in one of the papers, I believe, about the new MFS wanting to get into equities and securities dealership. Is that a platform that you are indeed looking to go to in an aggressive way to become a securities dealer?
So we took this step because it was very strategic for us. As I said earlier, we have at our team. We have been in investment banking for a number of years. So we thought that in order to fully satisfy our clients, it was a good alliance to form at the time. We know that over time, we will become a full service investment banking outfit. We're not saying that Capital Solutions will be the vehicle, but it could be the vehicle. But that's a decision that we'll make over time, because I remember, we can't just decide that we're going to buy that company or any company. It would have to be that the selling shareholders who want to sell more of the company. So as we move forward in terms of our decisions, we know what our ultimate objectives are, and we know we'll be doing. We will become a full service investment banking outfit in the future.
Right. So it does seem to go with the overall strategy. You already do other types. You said you do Forex trading. Do you do crypto?
No, we don't.
Do you plan to?
Well, you see, our Forex trading is based on our license by there can be a license issued to us by the central bank. So we offer our clients that. If we were to do crypto now, it would just be for our proprietary book. It's not a product that we can offer to customers at this time.
Okay, understood. Well, let's take some more questions from the viewers. Shaq, again, this is the second part of the question. Shaq says, is the company looking to raise additional capital from the public and move to the main market?
We are examining that option. But I mean, to raise additional capital, but we're not currently contemplating moving to the main market. I mean, it might be something that we'll look at in the future, but at this time, we're not contemplating that.
And next question comes from Kalilah, who wants to know, would MFS consider a buyback of more shares? Because you now have 79%, so there's another 21% out there.
We don't want to be delisted, so we wouldn't consider, we want the company to remain listed.
Yes, indeed. All right. Next question also from Kalilah, who wants to know, within the next 6 months, what section of the business should shareholders expect to see the business focusing on?
So we said that the primary objective at the beginning was to use the company as a type of a SPAC, a special purpose acquisition company. So we expect that over the next 6 months, we should have completed the acquisition of the Money Services brand and make that a direct subsidiary of the listed company. And we expect that we should be building out that brand and putting in another 3 locations to that company. But we also see ourselves moving very aggressively in the real estate space because we already have the real estate. We have already acquired those real estates, and we're far down the road in terms of joint venture agreements and planning to start those developments.
So we clearly have a lot to see from MFS in the coming year and beyond. Blue Collar Finance wants to know, why didn't you buy Ciboney instead of SSLVC?
Well, so there are certain benefits that you get from maintaining. I mean, Ciboney is a real estate company. You know, if you were to buy Ciboney, you would really, based on the fact that we want to have a private equity investment type company, you would have to change the business model for Ciboney, right? If you change the business model for Ciboney, then you lose some of the benefits that you get from acquiring a shell loss-making company. So, you know, based on my understanding I mean, I don't claim to be a tax expert, but based on my understanding of the taxes, you can't, if you change the business model, you can't write off future earnings against the previous losses, that the accumulated losses of the company over the past years. So SSLVC more fit us as to what we're looking to do. We don't have to change the business model. I mean, all we're doing is still investing in companies, just a different stage of their life cycle.
Okay. Let me take this last question from Demar, who wants to know, what is MFS's entire portfolio like presently in terms of acquisition? So you told us some of it. I don't know if you gave us the full picture.
So, I mean, I'm not sure. Let me hope I'm answering the question. I'm understanding that they want to know the full number of companies under the MFS group.
Right. Well, that's what I understand from the question anyway.
So you would have heard about 3 already. We have the real estate, we have the money services, we have an investment in capital solutions. We also have other companies in terms of retail and distribution. Of course, over time, we will decide which one of these companies we want to bring under the private equity group and which one we will not make a part of that. So, you know, over the last 8 years, we have invested in a total of 9 companies. Some of them we have already liquidated our positions favorably. So, and we'll be investing in other companies. We have a pipeline of projects and companies that we are looking at currently. So after we have completed our due diligence in terms of doing our analysis and ensuring that these are companies we want to get into, you will hear us announce it. Because currently we're looking at a total of 10 companies that we want to buy into. So there are other things on the horizon.
So give us some numbers, Dino, because we're probably not going to be privy to MFS's numbers until the next quarter. Tell us, and I don't know if you happen to have them handy or not off the top of your head, what are your revenue figures like currently?
All right, so I mean, I'm not sure. I don't know if I want to go into it a little bit too much until the company is fully acquired by the listed company. Okay. But you know, in terms of if you should, well, I guess some of it is public knowledge. If you should look at our website, for example, you'll see that we already generate over $300 million in revenues on an annual basis. And, that's just from the money services side of life. So it can give you an idea of what we do in terms of revenues.
Okay. Well, I'm asking because you're going to be new to the stock exchange. Our investors are going to be looking to see, is this something that I would like to buy into? Is this a company that I am interested in? And, some of us are impatient to wait for that next quarterly report to hit the JC.
That's true. And
one or no, because it's early. You're just getting on one or no.
Yeah, and I think.
So you said you do have info on your website. What's your website?
MFS.com. MFS. I think it's MFSLimited.com.
MFS. All right. So guys, you can go and check it out. Check them out online. MFSLimited.com.
I mean, we're excited that the market has shown, because since the announcement in January that MFS has an interest in acquiring SSL, the market has actually rewarded the stock price in a favorable way. Now, we're not taking that for granted. We know that as new entrants, maybe we have a track record in terms of our performance otherwise, but we have to live up to this confidence and live up to the expectation. And we intend to live up to it. So, persons can be confident that we will be, we made this move because we're confident that we can actually deliver value for, not just for us as a team, but for the minority shareholders and all the stakeholders in the company.
Okay, so let us take a look just before you go at those numbers for those of you who are curious as to what the chart looks like for SSLVC and what well, I can't say what it's gonna look like going forward. I have no looking glass, what do I call it?
Right.
Crystal ball to say what it's gonna look like. But here is what the stock price has looked like recently. All right, bring it up now. So here we go, SSLVC. 3 months. So it's been about normal. Let's see, year to date. What is it looking like year to date? Up 83%. All right. And yes, you did make that announcement in January. So year to date would be the figure to look at, up 83% since the start of the year. So let's look at that chart. There we go. Right around the time when you all announced that you were interested in acquiring it.
Right.
Went right up to 2 something. And then now it's petered to about 173 for today. And of course, we continue watching this stock to see what happens when the name change comes into effect and all that good stuff. Thank you so much for joining us, Dino.
Thank you very much for having me.
I appreciate you coming on. All right. So to our viewers, reminding you to like the video and let us know, are you interested in MFS that is going to be listed on the stock exchange, formerly SSLVC, soon to be MFS Group, MFS Acquisition. I'm not sure what exactly they're going to call it. I think he did say. I have to check back the tape. And of course, take our poll. Tonight's poll is on the hurricane season. June to November. The hurricane season is June to November. And I do have to remind you that we are there. We're in the thick of it. Forecasters are expecting an above normal hurricane season this year. And I want to know in tonight's poll, how prepared are you? Geez, I'm not prepared at all. I'm always prepared. What you mean? I'm just watching it carefully and praying or other. Leave a comment on Twitter or YouTube or both, and we'll have it in our newsletter tomorrow as well. Now, while you're at it, hit that like button. Up next, we've got your market recap, and the analysts are standing by.
This segment of Taking Stock was brought to you by Bulwark Insurance Agency. Insurance made easy and...
Download today. Register using your existing NCB online banking login credentials. To open an account or get more info, contact our Wealth Hub today.
Scotia Elevate is a new life insurance plan from Scotia Insurance for the big thinkers and go-getters. Stay protected with up to $12 million in life coverage and up to $6 million in accidental death and dismemberment. Plus, enjoy customized investments to help build your net worth. Learn more at jm.scotiabank.com.
Time now for your market recap. The Jamaica Stock Exchange advanced, with the combined index gaining nearly 3,000 points or less than 1%. 117 stocks traded across both the main and junior markets of the JSE for the week ending Friday, June 3, 2022. 65 advanced, 43 declined, and 9 stayed the same. 121 million shares changed hands on the Jamaican dollar market, totaling $751 million. Jamaican teas was the most traded. It took up nearly 14% of market volume. The stock lost 26 cents to open the new week at $3. JMMB Group 7.5% traded the second highest volume, with people buying 13 million shares in the company. The stock's price lost 8 cents to open the new week at 91 cents. And Trans-Jamaican Highway rounded out the most traded, taking up almost 9% of market volume. The stock lost 2 cents to open this week at $1.34. Now let's see who else had the biggest gains for the week. JMMB Group 7.25% VRJMD CR preference shares was last week's biggest gainer. The stock price jumped nearly 25% to close last week at $1.92. Fosrich was last week's second biggest gainer. The stock price rose 23% to close at $29.55. And rounding out our biggest gains, Cargo Handlers is up 20%. The stock gained $2 to open the week at $12. On the losing side now, Epley 7.5% preference share due 2024 was last week's biggest loser, down 15% to close last week at $7.23. However, the stock was May's third biggest gainer after Mayberry Jamaican Equities up 20%. KLE Group fell 14% to open this week at $2.06. And rounding off the week's biggest losers, Sygnus Credit Investments USD ordinary shares lost nearly 13% to close at 11 cents US. Now here's a look at some of the highlights for the month of May. The main index declined by nearly 2%. The junior market declined by almost 6%. The financial index declined by less than 1%. And the manufacturing and distribution index declined by 4%. 138 Student Living Jamaica Variable Preference had the biggest gains in May. The stock price rose 38% to close last month at $17.09. Mayberry Jamaican Equities was May's second biggest gainer. The stock opened June at $14.51 after gaining nearly 22%. On the losing side, ISP Financial Services dropped nearly 24% to end May at $22.50. Everything Fresh fell nearly 23% to open June at $1.35. And Key Insurance dropped almost 22% to close May at $3.82. Over on the Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange, the composite index declined last week, losing 1 point. Massey Holdings was the most traded. It opened this week at $5.24 TT. Cinema One was the market's biggest gain, up nearly 31% to open this week at $3.45 TT. And on the losing side, Calypso Macro Index Fund fell 8% to open the new week at $18.86 TT. Over in the US, the Dow Jones ended last week up 0.5%, while the S&P 500 rose almost 1%. The Nasdaq was also up by 1%. It was a rough week over the pumps. The prices of 87 and 90 octane gas both rose by $4.50 per litre, while the price for automotive and ultra-low sulfur diesel also both rose by $3.06. In foreign exchange, it took an average $154.58 Jamaican to purchase $1 last week. And on the crypto markets, Bitcoin rose 5% in the past 5 days, trading at $31,261 at noon Monday, while Ethereum rose 2% in the past 5 days, trading at $1,857 at noon on Monday. This segment of Taking Stock, The Analysts, is brought to you by Ideal Securities Brokers Limited.
Welcome back. And just before we get to the analysts, let me shout out a few people who have been commenting. Art says, upgrade the zinc roof, guys. Hurricane season is here. If you can, yeah, that zinc roof, you got to secure it properly, or if you can, upgrade it. Strong Link says above normal. Yes, that is the expectation for this year. And I think I was listening to an interview recently where they said it's going to be like the 7th consecutive year of above normal activity. Ooh, as that is telling you something about climate change, huh? And then Miles says, invest in proper water storage. Yes, that is important. And you know as well that around this time of year, and summer coming, we tend to have water lock-offs from NWC. So if you can't make that investment, do so. That is important. Make sure you have proper water. And Learn, Grow, Invest says, check your roofs. Yep. This is a good time to check those roofs indeed. And I also dropped the link for MFS's website in the chat just now. So it's actually microfinancingsolutions.com. And you guys can check out their website, check out the About Us section, and learn more about them to see if perhaps this is an investment that might be for you. You might be interested in this one. So let's go now to the analysts. I'm joined by wealth manager at Ideal Securities Brokers Company, Oric Angus, assistant manager of private equity at Proven Management, Julian Morrison, and we're welcoming founder of Learn, Grow, Invest Club, Jermaine McDonald. Welcome, guys.
Kalilah.
Jermaine, it's very happy to see you on. I watch your channel on YouTube all the time, sometimes in preparation for my own show.
That's good to hear. It's good to hear. I do the same pretty much.
So welcome to Taking Stock. Yeah, and I always see you in the comments as well. Welcome, welcome. Great to have you on. Welcome back, Oric. Welcome back, Julian. So let us talk first about the news that broke this morning. The allotments for Dollar Financial are out. Key partners get their full allocation, so good for them. But everybody else who has to fight in the public pool, they're only getting the first 10,000 shares plus 2.5% of the excess shares. And I know that means there were tears for a lot of people. People were cussing in my comments earlier. But I tell them, don't be so sad, because a lower allocation means that the stock price is likely to go up quicker, since more people are going to be fighting for a small amount. But I want to hear your take on it. And I'm actually going to start with Jermaine, since you're new to the show. What do you think about the allotments for Dollar?
Well, I think it's actually higher than most person expected. I know certainly me, based on just some of the numbers that I've been hearing, it is a good thing that the allocations are this low. It means great potential, but at the same time, I think persons, are concerned that they may not be able to get the shares that they want. So it's the kind of trade-off that you need to make, right? Because we want growth, but at the same time, we want volume. So you just have to choose.
Mm-hmm. Oric, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's fairly in line with expectation. I heard a lot of speculation leading up to today. I was actually beside Kadeem today when it was released, and we were both laughing about it, that people are going to be pissed. A lot of people didn't take it well, but I mean, it is what it is. It shows that there's a lot of demand, or there was a lot of demand for the IPO, and when it lists, we do expect see somebody comment about 2.5. Yeah, when it lists, we do expect that demand to flow into the market. So yeah, it is what it is. We just have to accept it for what it is and move on. It's better than not getting any at the end of the day.
Well, yeah, it's more than what some people were expecting, because I was hearing 1% out there.
Well, I heard 5, I heard 7, I heard 3. I didn't hear 2, so that was the lowest I've seen actually.
Julian?
Well, yes, it's just a response. It's just a result of the demand that's out there related to the supply. What's interesting is that this is a record offer within the context of the junior market, and still the allocations are relatively small. I think a major driver for the uptake is the fact that many of the application processes are now totally digital. It's so easy to apply for an IPO now.
That's
so
true.
It could be an indication that not just Jamaicans who are in Jamaica had the convenience and ability to apply, but maybe Jamaicans overseas who have been waiting to invest for so long, they can now apply remotely with more ease.
So let me take a few comments from the audience. Demar says, I was expecting 2K match to me. That's a lot. Craig says 10,000 plus 2.5% is better than 5.1%. So, well, I guess it depends on how much you put in, because that will
Yeah.
vary as well. Next person, Strong Link, says too much speculation on IPO is taking place. Dangerous. O'Shane says, when I calculate, I got 9% of my total order. So good for you, O'Shane. And then Blue Collar Finance says IPO game over. Next thing I want to get your quick thoughts on. So we just had that interview with Dino Hinds from MFS, and you guys would have been listening to him, what their plans for the company are for the takeover of SSLVC. What are your early thoughts on MFS going to be kind of a new entrant to the stock exchange? And I'll start with let me see who. Julian, you go first.
Well, it's good to hear that the private equity space is becoming more mature in Jamaica with the emergence of more players, especially one that is exchange listed. There's an argument that assets like those or investment strategies like those don't necessarily need to be listed. But what's interesting is that there's a special niche in that there are companies that are medium sized that are looking for tailored, specialized types of capital in terms of financing. And there are new players coming up like Roots Investing. There are some others out there that are coming in, as we saw Dequity in the case of Dollar, and Dequity supporting iCreate, and now MFS is coming in the space. So these companies that are of this size can now have a wider array of players to show their financials to so that they can grow. So it's a positive signal, and looking forward to it. It sounds very interesting, and we just hope that the risk management framework is there, because private equity is not just about return. It's very important to have an investment committee, and it's very important to have risk management framework. It's not all about making a money, because it's very easy to lose the money as well. So you have to watch for that.
That is true. That's a great point. But, on the same point, talking about, what has just happened here with this takeover of SSLVC by MFS, we have another company out there in a kind of similar situation, Ciboney, which is one that investors have been speculating a lot about lately. And there was some news about Ciboney probably last week. So Ciboney's majority shareholder, they've indicated that they're now in the final stages of selling 72% of the company. What does that mean, Oric? What happens next?
I mean, it's a deal that has been in the pipeline for a long time, since that bailout. A lot of back and forth has been going on, with the sale of that 72% stake. So I do think investors are excited to see that it's coming closer to the end of the tunnel. It is rewarding to see that investors who have been holding the stocks for so long have waited it out. Obviously, some of them would have benefited from the recent uptick in the share price. But really and truly, I think that it's good that it's coming to an end. For me and a lot of portfolio advisors out there, it has been something that has been weighing on investors' mind for a very long time, in terms of how do they benefit from their lost position that they have been holding for so long. I mean, grant you, it might not, we don't know the financial terms of the deal, we don't know what the stock price will play out to at the end of the day. But as I say, it's a step closer to where we were prior, since the latest release last year.
Yeah, so everybody who was banking on Ciboney saw all that speculation last year.
Right.
It is about to come to an end, as Oric said, about to come to fruition. Let's see where the stock price finally settles when that time
Kalilah,
comes and the deal is sealed. Yeah?
you should tell the viewers what Ciboney actually is. You have a lot of young viewers.
Tell them.
Okay, so Ciboney is actually one of the companies that actually was severely affected by the whole FinSac episode.
Mm-hmm.
So it was actually a hotel group, and pretty much because of the financial distress that took place in the FinSac episode, the company eventually had to sell off its assets to clear off a lot of its liabilities. and it had to shrink and downsize to the point where it's now a shell company. So that's what it is. So it's just to get people to know what it is that is being bought. Maybe it is that it's a similar situation as SSLVC, in that a player is going to buy the company and have a turnaround operation, or maybe we could see something else.
Yeah, I'm curious to see who the buyer is and what they do with the company, because like you've noted, they don't necessarily have to go into the same business that Ciboney was in. For example, when SSLVC took over C2W Music, it's completely different business, but they take the name, they take the asset, they take the, the listing opportunity with it. So I'm curious to see what happens when the takeover is complete. Craig wants you to break down what is a shell company.
A shell company is exactly what it sounds like, in that it doesn't have a working, active internal infrastructure. So in terms of staff that come into work every day, that actually generate economic activity, in terms of assets that generate profit for shareholders and all of those things. A shell company is essentially an entity that's a skeleton. It doesn't have any day-to-day activities that generate economic gains for shareholders. It pretty much just exists in name as a legal entity. It might have some assets, so to speak, on paper, but in terms of a company that has growth outlook, has plans, is allocating capital, moving into markets, moving product, none of those things are usually happening in the case of a shell company.
All right, good. Thanks for that, Julian. One of the other big pieces of news in the past week concerned another company that recently did an IPO, JFP, formerly Jamaica Fiberglass Producers. They did an IPO earlier this year. And I remember distinctly that interview with Metris Siago, and he was saying that their plan for expansion is to move into the US market. And I was like, US market is super competitive. Nobody really knows you there. And he was confident that they could do it. Well, now they have delivered, and they have their first US client, and it's a nice name brand, Hyatt Place Newark Hotel in California. And Jermaine, I want to hear your thoughts on JFP, because when that IPO came out, there were quite a few, at least a couple of companies, of investment firms that said this was a do not invest recommendation.
Yes, I remember that as well. I think it comes down to just understanding the type of business that it is, right? So not every company on the stock exchange is the same, will perform the same. And I think JFP is unique in that, just based on what it does, how long it's been around, that it's a solid company. Now, I mean, what stood out for me in the interview that you did was, the use of the word lumpy, right? We joke about it all the time in our group, but that really kind of gave you an idea as to just the fact that the company may have some really great quarters, but some that it may not do as you might expect. But the fact that they've been able to make this deal is a great sign. I did know that their plans were to expand, so this is proof of that. And once they keep building on this, I think they'll do really well, moving forward. So I think it's great news. I think they've, lived up to everything that they said they would so far. And we're just waiting to see how the next 6 months goes for the year, to see whether or not they're able to do everything that they intend to do.
Yeah, I'm happy for them. I'm super happy for them that they've been able to get this, and hopefully it leads to more opportunities, because, in business, it's like, and even though the United States seems like such a big place, there's still an inner circle, when it comes to, especially in this industry, hotel industry, getting those contracts. You want people to recommend you if you do a good job. And I believe, based on the quality of work that JFP has done here in Jamaica, I believe that they can, do a good job wherever they go in the world. So I'm really happy for them with this new deal. All right. So who is that, Auric?
Yeah, I agree. It is very it's very refreshing to see Kalilah, because the Hyatt, as you say, is a big brand, and based on what I know, they're rapidly expanding. I think in the pipeline they have about 48 hotel chains that they plan to open soon, 23 this year and around 25 in 2023. JFP can create further synergies through that through their relationship with the first hotel, and hopefully they'll get more of those deals coming out of the pipeline. So I think that is good for them, and we really hope to see more like this to build on the sustainability of the revenue.
All right, let's get into some company results. Julian, you've been looking at Lasco Financial's 2022 performance. What is Last F showing us right now?
Okay, so I'll share my screen.
It's coming up. There we go.
All right.
You know the game. Zoom, zoom, zoom.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So here we go. In terms of the company's revenues, they have seen a good year with growth of 9.4% year over year for financial year 2022. Their financial year ends in March. So these numbers are audited. It's lower than their average of 12.8%, but within the context of the recovery, they did pretty well compared to the prior year in terms of risk management and being able to grow their different lines of revenue and income pretty much. Now, in terms of net profit, which is what we're all interested in, we saw a major growth of 95.5%. And a lot of that had to do with the fact that the company was able to not only grow its revenues, but to contain its operating expenses and also reduce its finance costs at the same time. So we had gains coming from various areas, and it has a lot to do with risk management. Because if you're able to grow your revenues while containing expenses at the same time, it says a lot about the posture of management in terms of taking risk. They're not just getting revenues for the sake of it, but they're trying to do it in such a way that they grow earnings in a major way, especially within the context of an economic recovery. There are so many moving parts, and there are so many things that the company is sensitive to at this stage. So let's go a little bit further. In terms of efficiency, now efficiency is your expenses relative to your revenues. The pandemic period saw a significant jump or deterioration in efficiency because the expenses would have been much higher relative to their revenues. But as you can see in FY 2022, there has been a significant improvement over the average here, which is 80%. We have it now at about 74%. And if you look at FY 2020 and 2021, there's still a significant improvement over those areas. So that's a part of the story that we were communicating earlier about why the company is doing better now. In terms of net profit margins, it's doing well for the same reasons we just mentioned. Both revenue growth and expenses are moving in the right direction. We're seeing double-digit growth of 12.2% year over year. And we want to look at their ECL levels. That's speaking about their loan quality. So if your ECL levels are higher, it means that your loan quality is lower, right? So we need a smaller number. So in 2019, it was 5%. Then it jumped to 18%. That means that they could have seen a significant level of defaults on their loans because of the pandemic. Many other persons who borrowed money would have had difficulty paying that money back. And in 2021, we saw some improvement there in terms of 14%. So that's 4 percentage points of improvement. And if you look, we saw where the loan book has actually shrunk. It moved from 1.87 billion to 1.26 billion, right? So it means that the company has been downsizing its loan book as a means of de-risking. So they've been cutting their losses and saying, okay, how can we get a smaller loan book that is of a higher loan quality? But they saw a significant deterioration in 2022, and that's likely tied to fresh economic challenges. We're seeing growth in inflation, way above the average. We're seeing stresses on small businesses from various areas. Down the line, we could be looking at higher interest rates and what could that mean for the uptake of their loans down the road. So pretty much the company did do well year over year. But there are some headwinds. Let me just pick a few. So net remittances fell 9.4% year over year from 305 million US to 276.5 million US for the March period, and that's BOJ's data. And that could do with the fact that persons are sending less money home, because last year we would have seen a big jump.
Right,
Because,
I remember that. There was
right,
a big
because of,
jump in 2021 due to the pandemic.
yep, and a lot of that could have been tied to the stimulus levels that came out during the period, the fiscal stimulus that the government actually issued. Some of that would have shown up in remittance flows to Jamaica. And of course, inflation is tracking above 8% in the US currently, where the target rate is usually 2%. So because consumers are facing much higher prices, they really have to be careful about sending money back home. They'll still send money home, or maybe it is that they're sending smaller volumes. Now, we need to consider the competitive landscape. Dollar Financial Services just listed. That could change the competitive dynamic in the microfinance space. So it could put some pressure on Lasco Financial Services. It seems as if they're shifting into money services more than just lending. So we could watch that, which also makes them more sensitive to what happens in the remittances space. But on the flip side, the fact that Access Financial Services had some issues in the prior financial year, meaning over the 2022 financial year, it allowed the company to get more market share. So that was a part of why they did so well year over year. Now, in terms of the stock is at $3.48. It's up 16% year to date. But on a year-over-year basis, it's down 10.5%. It's down 10.8% relative to the 52-week high. The PE is fairly, it's attractive at 14.54%. Most junior market companies are above that right now. Return on equity is 16%, which is good, which means that it's a fair entry point at face value. But at the same time, because of the headwinds I mentioned before, as it relates to microfinancing and as it relates to inflation, because operating costs will rise for many companies because of higher energy prices, Lasco Financial Services is no exception, it could impact their earnings. So I anticipate that they will earn a little bit less, about 10% less in terms of their net profit going into the next financial year. And because of that, I'm seeing a price point of $3.16 as a preliminary look for where the stock could be in terms of its true value. The market could defy that, but it's just based on what we're seeing on the table based on the data. That means it would have downside of 9% in a 12-month period. The dividend yield currently is 1.15%. So that's downside of about 8%, right? So even though the company did well last year, where we are going to be in the next 12 months could be significantly different because of the things that we already know about. We're talking about higher interest rates. Remember that they're already having issues with collections, as we can see from the deterioration in loan quality, and they've been downsizing their loan book. Recently, management spoke to the Gleaner about loan growth slowing. So if loan growth is slowing, it means that the current economic headwinds in Jamaica could be showing up in the company's financial performance, because if consumers aren't able to pay back their loans because of difficulties in business, you have higher expenses all around, then you have higher interest costs because of BOJ rate hikes. All of these things at once can be a lot, especially for last F's clientele, which tends to be middle to lower income customers, both in terms of business and consumers. So the price has been fluctuating within a narrow band. The support level is about $3. The resistance level was $3.25, but it moved to $3.50 when the 9-month results came out in February. So that's a bullish signal, meaning that people were more optimistic about the stock because of what happened in the 9-month period. But the volumes remain moderate. In terms of the historical performance, over the last 5 years, it's actually down 20% in terms of where it has been. But from a 10-year perspective, it's actually up significantly, according to the Bloomberg terminal. So it's up roughly about 800%, which is why we talk to investors about looking long term. Right now, again, even though they've done better year over year, they might not necessarily be able to replicate that in the next financial year. So that's pretty much my summary on Lasco Financial Services.
Yeah, I feel like I just always sit back, maximize my screen, and pay keen attention whenever Julian gives these analyses. I feel like I'm in school.
I try.
So what's your conclusion then? Because you said they're down over the past 5 years, and then they have all this new competition coming. Dollar just listed. We just talked to MFS. They're about to be a bigger player on the scene. You have Alliance being taken over by Sagicor. What's your outlook for them?
Well, in terms of the outlook, as I was saying earlier, because of inflation, and it's expected. All right, first of all, we have to put things into context. Most Jamaicans are not middle class, right? It's not like in the US. In the US, most Americans, or at least half of their population, is middle class. That's not the case in Jamaica, right? Our middle class is much smaller. So that means that our inflation tolerance is much smaller. So when you have 8% inflation in Jamaica, it's going to hit Jamaicans differently than 8% inflation in the US. So what that means is our current headwinds could have greater impact on us faster than in the US. So the fact that management has already started talking about slowing loan growth, and they saw some issues with their loan quality in the last couple of years, and they shrank the loan book to take care of that, it means that the next financial year could be even rougher, because now we're going to layer that with higher interest rates, which would make the loans more expensive to the same people that we're talking about, who have to pay more for light, they have to pay more for food, they have to pay more for transportation. So the truth of the matter is the short-term outlook is not good. It's not great. I mean, it's a company that is taking active steps to de-risk. They reduce their loans, meaning that their liabilities that they actually pay out, they have cut their interest expense. But the fact of the matter is the environment itself is just really tough. And
It's just a
then
tough
we're talking
business to
about
be in
Access
right
coming back.
now.
Sorry, Alliance coming back, because they're now acquired by Sagicor, and they're not out of the space anymore. They're going to be coming back, talking about the fact that Dollar is now listed. What is Dollar going to do with the fact that it now has a new set of resources? So it's really tough for Lasco Financial Services.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's look at another company, Sygnus Credit Investments. This is a company that, for some reason, investors haven't really warmed up to, even though they usually post great results. So let's hear their latest results. These are the unaudited results for the 9 months ended March 31, 2022. What are those results showing us this time, Auric?
All right, let me share my screen. All right, we good?
Yeah.
All right, so yeah, these are the unaudited numbers for Sygnus. Please note that these numbers are quoted in US dollars. So as you can see, for the core earnings, the net interest income for the period went up by 25.72%.
Show us where you are. You're at the top.
I am right here at
Okay,
the
good.
top. Yeah.
And zoom in.
Hold
Remember,
on.
some people are watching us on mobile devices like cell phones, so
That's
you have to
better.
zoom so we can see. Yeah.
Yeah, man. So we can see where interest income, which is a part of the company's core revenue, had increased by 25.7%, which is $520,000. That increase was mainly due to revenues coming out of Puerto Rico, and we'll get to that in a short period of time. The company recently acquired 93.7% of Rent Financial Corporation, which is a subsidiary of Credit Portfolio Puerto Rico Inc. That the company had bought out recently this year. The value of that deal was somewhere around US $23 million. And let me show you the breakdown of the company's industry allocation. So this is an overlook of Sygnus's portfolio. This is where their revenues are
Well
coming from.
diversified. They're in a lot of things.
Yeah, so it's well diversified. The top five revenue drivers for the company is commercial real estate, which account for 19.6% of their revenue. Hospitality, not of their revenue. It's allocated. Their asset is allocated by 19.6% into that sector. Hospitality is 13.3 sector. The financial sector is 10.1. The energy space is 10%, and the manufacturing, which is 9.4%. Now, in
I
regards
wonder
to
if they're
their,
not in too many things, Oric.
sorry?
I said, I wonder if they're not in too many things.
I mean, based on the company's strategy right now, they're planning on diversify as much as they can. Obviously, as you can see, most of these are not heavily skewed. So, for example, you look at these smaller ones on the corner over here, they're not that, they're just a smaller percentage of the company's overall investment portfolio. Now, when you look at the regional allocation by territories, you're looking at where is it? Something is wrong
Jamaica.
here.
So Jamaica,
Supposed to be.
22%.
It's supposed to have Puerto Rico here, which accounts for about 40% of the company's assets, and Jamaica is second in line. Why Puerto Rico? Sygnus. Puerto Rico has made significant improvements over the last 4 to 5 years. The company has successfully reduced their debt from about 22 billion to around 7.4 billion. The economy is projected to grow at around 3.7% for the current financial year. And most of that growth is coming from their manufacturing sector, which accounts for about 48% of the country's GDP. Tourism is next in line. Last year, they had record-breaking levels for tourism. And then the next big sector in Puerto Rico is their service sector. And you find that Sygnus has footprints in all of those sectors. And these are positive signs as to why Puerto Rico is a good investment opportunity for Sygnus. On top of that, unemployment records are at all-time low. So it's a good opportunity. It's a good territory for them to be in right now. As you can see here, these numbers are actually accurate. I'm just not sure why Puerto Rico is not showing on this list, but I can give you a better view of this before the end of the interview. Now, in regards to, let's go back over to the income statement. Now, in regards to their expenses, as you can see, the expenses here are extremely high. It's up 128%, and that is as a result of foreign exchange losses and impairments that was recorded on the book for the company. As you can see here, foreign exchange loss accounted for about 288 million of their expenses, and impairment losses was about 521,000. Sorry, right. So overall, expenses has increased by
This is US
about.
dollars.
That's US dollars. Sorry, right. Right. You know my challenges with navigating this thing. Anyways, let's move on. Now, in regards to their net profit, you can see down here, net profit went down by 64%, which was a significant decline for the 3 months recorded, and that is as a result of the high impairment losses and foreign exchange losses that was recorded for the company. Subsequent to that, EPS fell down to about 6 cents per share, down from 20 cents per share. So that is roughly a 70% decline in EPS again when you look at it overall, and that was primarily due to the reduction in earnings, and we have to factor in that the company did APO last year as well, so the weighted average number of shares would have increased when compared to the similar period in 2021 last year. Now, when we come over to the company's balance sheet, the company total assets have now surpassed $100 million US dollars, as you can see here. That is a 58.4 increase. At the end of the period, Sygnus recorded 135 million in total assets, which is an increase of about 49.8 million US, or a 58% increase. Now, this was mainly comprised of total private credit investments in Puerto Rico again, US 23.5 million was that investment. The company has a lot of cash, which is 3.6 million cash on the books, along with marketable securities, and their investment income receivables stands at around which is right here, stands at around 4.6%. So overall, the balance sheet is pretty healthy. Total shareholder equity is 60.8 million US dollars. Now, when you talk about Sygnus's strategy, they have sufficient liquidity, and the company right now is trying to maintain a flexible capital structure to support their existing portfolio companies while building out a robust pipeline. What I like about Sygnus is that they're not afraid to unlock capital and move on when it's not working out for them. I think the management team is very good. They're very aggressive, and they're constantly trying to build out new partnerships, particularly throughout the Caribbean. So that's a part of their strategy that management noted going forward for Sygnus Group. The company is also in the process of exploring and implementing a share buyback that will kind of reduce the amount of supply that is on the market right now to match back with the level of demand, and hopefully you can see a better performance in the stock price based on their financial reports as they fall due. Now, in regards to the valuation for SCI, the last close price was $14.6 today. The 52i was around 19, as Kalilah mentioned. A lot of people are obviously not focusing on the company right now, but I do think it's a good potential investment to look at that gives you indirect exposure to various industries, various territories across the Caribbean, across the US as well. So as you can see, based on the portfolio that I showed you earlier, the company has a well-diverse regional allocation. So if you're looking for indirect exposures to those countries, Sygnus Investment, they have a pretty good portfolio. When you talk about the expected EPS, it comes out at around $2.15, and that gives us a PE of about 6.8 times. Obviously, the stock is down year to date, approximately 2%, and the company, based on the dividends that they've paid out previously, that leaves us with an expected dividend yield of about 4.3%. So overall, that is my summary on Sygnus. I do hope I wish I could fix the Puerto Rico on the allocations here so you could see it properly. I don't know what happened, but my apologies for that.
If you can, we can bring it back during the closing to show it.
Yeah,
but I see you do have a recommendation there for overweight. Explain what that means. What's that?
Yeah, so my recommendation based on the PE relative to the market, it's pretty low, 6.8 times when you compare it to the overall sector. So the overweight recommendation on that is a buy. I refrain this time from giving you my target price, but I'll hold that opinion for now.
And just to remind you that this is not intended as investment advice. This is for educational purposes only. Please consult a licensed financial advisor to find out if this might be right for you. And then Canada Immigration Compass pointing out here, plus Sygnus is one of the best paying dividends.
Yeah, they do pay good dividends, and particularly in US dollars. So a lot of investors like to see that healthy dividends coming in from the company. Obviously, that's by virtue of the nature of the investments that they do and the profits that they make in US dollars again. So the exchange rate, you have a little benefit of benefiting from whenever the exchange rate moves. So your dividend payment also moves with that. So that's good.
And speaking of dividends, let's head into our final topic of the evening. Carib Cement is finally paying dividends after what, like 17 years.
Forever.
Yeah,
Jermaine,
around
you've been
16,
following this one.
17.
Yes, Jermaine has been following this one. What are your thoughts on this?
All right. Let me share my screen here. All right, so it should be there.
Yes.
All right, so just in case there's somebody who doesn't understand what a dividend is, it's really a company taking a portion of its profits and paying it to its shareholders. As Kalilah said, we've been waiting on this one for a very long time. And so since, something was announced last year, I believe it was about August, they mentioned that, they're going to be forming this committee to determine what their dividend policy is going to be. And then a few months passed, we didn't really get anything concrete. So persons were very, curious as to what is happening. And then we saw the royalty announcement, and, investors didn't really respond well to that. And we saw it, with a move in the share price down from about 146 to, I think it ended up somewhere around the $60 region. And then this notice came out just yesterday. The interesting thing about this notice, right? So it looks like your typical dividend announcement, but it's really a dividend recommendation, right? So I wanted to state this, before I say, David, correct me in the comments. It's a dividend recommendation, and which means that it's pending approval at their next AGM, right? So as I talk about it, just bear that in mind. So a few things that I've highlighted here. So typically with a dividend announcement, you have the announcement date, which would be June 6th here. We have the dividend that they're going to pay, which is $1.5 per share. That means if you're a shareholder, you'll get $1.50 for every share that you hold, and it will be payable on the date of August 15th. There are also some other dates that you wanted to take note of. The ex-dividend date is August 3rd, which means that you have to be a shareholder. And based on our settlement dates here, being 2 days, you'd have to be a shareholder as at July 29th. Because remember, August 1st is going to be, I think, Emancipation Day. So there's no trading on that day. So, it looks, again, like a typical dividend announcement, but it is, it says here that it's going to be, discussed and agreed at their next AGM, which the date has not been confirmed as yet either. So we don't know when that's going to take place, but we assume that it's going to be before the dates that we're seeing here. So it's either going to be sometime in late June or sometime in July, right? So I've kind of just highlighted the dates here on the screen that you're seeing here, just for persons to take note of. Again, assuming that it's approved by at the AGM, these are the dates that you want to take note of. And we've also calculated the dividend yield. Now, we just spoke about Sygnus's dividend yield, so take that into consideration here. At the current price as at today, so it ended trading at $69.55. So that would be a dividend yield of 2.16%. It's, to me, based on just the anticipation, everything that, led up to this point, I personally would have hoped that they would have done a better dividend, based on all things considered. But that would be the dividend yield. So if you are interested, that's something you want to account for based on the fact that you're going to pay almost 2% fees to purchase. And so bear that in mind. Of course, we did see movement from yesterday. Just yesterday, the share price closed at about $65. It did trade as high as $74 today. So there is some movement based on this dividend recommendation, not declaration, but recommendation. So it could be what some investors have been waiting for, to finally get some movement, but there's still a lot of things that, I'd like to see, from them, just, confirming that AGM and, ensuring that this is something that they can consistently do over the next few years.
Thank you so much for that, Jermaine. Thank you so much again, Oric and Julian. This has been Where am I? Oh, there I am. Yeah, we've
Oh
gone pretty
yeah.
long with the section with the analyst discussion this week because there was so much to talk about, and I'm actually happy that we did do it because you guys did a great job of summarizing the key points on
Just
those companies.
let me show you back a quick
You have it
thing of that
with
chart.
Puerto Rico, the chart.
Yeah.
All right, let's see it.
All right, so this is it. So this is how it should actually look. Puerto Rico, which accounted for 40% of the company's overall asset, and I did go through why they are so heavily invested in that territory right now.
Okay.
And then the other supplemental on the side here. So that's it. I see David calling me out in regards to the comment. I did David just letting you know I did pointed out that the financials are in US dollars, and I did pointed out the APO on the average share price for the EPS last year. That's a Jeremy laughing at.
I did say it's a recommendation as well. Yeah. So
Yes,
You
yes,
don't think that
definitely.
is the watchdog, right?
Always on the P's and Q's, I love it.
David, but FSC right now. All right, thanks, guys. Take a very quick
Cheers.
break and
Have
come
a
back
good
with the
night.
closing. Somebody asked a question. Well, there are a couple of questions. I'm going to address those in the closing in just a few.
This segment, The Analysts, was brought to you by Ideal Securities Brokers Limited.
Hey, moneymakers, you're not an official part of the family until you have your merch. Visit KalilahReynolds.com/store to order your t-shirt and your mask today. Let's get this money. Let's get this money. All right, let's head into your final comments, and I have a few here. So Craig wants to know, how did people calculate the possible allotments? So I'm going to go through that right now for you real quick. Oh, so now I'm coming in like these guys who keep saying, let me share my screen, and I should have brought this up during the break just now. All right, let me get there very quickly. Dollar allotments. I'm going to show you how to calculate those allotments. Here we go. Sharing screen, and where did it go? I lost it. All right, I'm good. Oh, okay, I found it. Here we go. All right, so this is how you calculate your allotment, and I posted this on my IG and TikTok today. So let's say you invested $100,000 in this stock, right? And it was $1 per share, so it makes it pretty easy to calculate. You're going to get the first 10,000 shares. So they said everybody gets 10,000 shares across the board. So you're going to subtract that. So you take out the 10,000 shares out of the 100,000, and you're left with 90,000. And you're going to get 2.5% of the remainder. So you already have your 10,000 shares. Take that out, put it one side, and then you're going to get 2.5% of the remainder. The remainder in this case is 90,000. So you multiply the 90,000, which is the remainder, times 2.5%. Expressed as a decimal, it's 0.025. So of the 90,000, you're only getting 2,250 shares. And then you're going to add back the 10,000 that everybody gets, and you get a total of 12,250 shares for somebody who was attempting to buy or applied for 100,000 shares. So that's how you calculate it. You can replace these numbers with whatever number you had in whatever number you applied for. That's how you figure it out. So I hope that answers your question. Hope that explained it simply enough. Craig, next question. Was this a question or a comment? Roswell said, being greedy did not work well in this IPO. That's why each person got just a little. But like we were explaining earlier, if the more people apply and the lower the allocation, the faster the stock price is likely to rise after the listing. That's just how it works with supply and demand. This comment cracked me up earlier. Arch says, a shell company is exactly what it sounds like. So it's a company that sells shells? Thanks, bro. Oh, you got jokes, man. It simply means that it is a shell without any snail in it. It's just the shell. Nothing is inside the shell. Yeah, it's just the outside. Javon Russell says, oh, I forgot to ask this to the analyst. Maybe next week. He wanted to know about Purity. And Andre says, loving the current discount for SCI. Nice buying opportunities. Getting this money. Check me 5 years from now on this one. Big up yourself, Andre. And thanks to all our viewers this evening. It was my pleasure joining you for, I got to say, an extended version of Taking Stock. This is one of the longest episodes we've done because we had just so much to talk about. The analyst segment was really rich, and I appreciated Dino Hinds stopping by earlier from Microfinancing Solutions. That's our show for this week. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like the video. If you haven't done it yet, hit the like button, subscribe to this channel, and also share it with a friend. And then you can go on and subscribe to our newsletter at KalilahReynolds.com/newsletter, reminding you that new email subscribers get a copy of my free broker guide and all the cool stuff to come. We're still working on that credit card document, best credit cards in Jamaica in various categories. That's going to be out pretty soon, and it's going out first to the email subscribers and other cool stuff you get via email. Also turn on those post notifications so that you can be the first to see all my other features. We want to help people learn more about money so we can all get this money together. Follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Kalilah Ray, and follow KRM_business news on Instagram. And if you want to connect with the analyst this week, check the description box below for their contact information. Also visit our website, KalilahReynolds.com, for financial information you can use however you like it. You can watch, you can listen to the audio, or you can just read the articles. And of course, tell a friend about Taking Stock, because investing is the new sexy. So let's make it cool to talk about money. I'm Kalilah Reynolds. See you next time.
Let's get this money.